Welcome back to Conversations That Count. I'm your host Jeihan, and today I'm joined by Lachie Stuart, founder of the Man That Can project and the man who ran 58 marathons in 58 days. We dive into identity, self-trust, resilience, and what it really takes to back yourself when life hands you crossroads instead of clarity. Lachie shares the moments that shaped him, from rock bottoms to rebuilding his life, preparing for a challenge most people wouldn't attempt, and the man he had to become along the way. If you've ever felt stuck, questioned your direction, or wondered what you're actually capable of, this episode will hit. Let's dive in.
I always think about the best way to build a great life is just make decisions quickly, get the feedback, and then pivot when you need to, because most decisions can be changed, right? You just make a new choice. In life, you find yourself in a position where you maybe have two choices or a couple of choices and they're all amazing. You're like, oh, which one do I do? Because they're all amazing. I want to do everything. And then you've got the times where there's a clear winner and there's a clear loser, and you're just like, easy.
Yeah.
And then you're in the other basket where they all suck, but you still have to make a decision to make some form of next step. And it's like, how do we know which one to take? And to simplify it for me, it's like sliding door moments or fork in the road moments, which is going to move me towards where I want to go or where I think I want to go, because we don't really know until we try it. We like the idea of things and we get infatuated with things. But if we always make decisions that move us away from that, meaning I want to live a life by design, for example, what does that look like for me? Doing things on my own terms, aligning with my values, having fun, etc. Is staying in the job going to allow me to do that? Maybe, maybe not. But for me personally, it didn't, which is why I work for myself.
Yeah.
But there's been a lot of choices along the way that haven't been the right choice. And there's plenty of moments where I question, should I just go get something that's stable because I can still get the paycheck, but then I wouldn't bring the stress home. And you're always constantly juggling these decisions and choices and also the consequences of those. And ideally, if you can live in a net positive, meaning you're probably making one or two better choices than you are bad choices. And for me, I feel like that's moving me towards a better life and a life, quote unquote, by design.
How do you trust yourself
That's a great,
in making those decisions? Because for me, I am really leaning into, if I have the idea, it's there for a reason, and follow through with the idea.
Yeah.
And you're right. Like, if you get there and then you go, this isn't right, then that's okay. You gave it a go, right? And then you no longer think about it. That comes with a level of trust.
Definitely.
And how do you build that? And how do you make those decisions really fast?
I trust myself, and I believe that no matter what situation I find myself in any instance, I believe I'll be able to be resourceful or find a way to get out of it if I need to, or build on it if I need to. And that comes back to confidence and having tried different things in different areas.
Yeah.
When growing up, the goal was always playing footy. And I became single focused. That was my idea of success. I believed if I achieved that, I would, financially would be sweet. Women would always be, I wouldn't have to stress about marriage or any of those sorts of things. And every problem in my life would disappear. Found out pretty quick after moving to France to play rugby that all the stuff that I was dealing with internally and the lack of confidence and direction and all of that followed me. When I started then thinking about, I'm the only person that's going to be in every situation with me. How do I become the person that I can lean on in those moments, regardless of the pressure? And to me, dealing with pressure is just your ability or how much resilience you have. And people always ask and question themselves, am I resilient or am I not? Or how do I become more resilient? And the reality is resilience is tied to a goal. Because if you're just continuing to put your head down and burrow through in something that doesn't add value to your life, that's, as my wife said to me, just the definition of stupidity.
Yeah.
And I was like, fair play, that makes sense. So if I wanted to become more resilient, I first need to know what the goal is or what the North Star is that's going to help me move forward, because then I have to burrow and it's going to deliver a great outcome. And so all of the things that I'm, trusting myself in is I go back to a process, and I call this a resilience loop, where I would look at what's the thing that I'm working towards, the North Star or the goal. What are the choices that I have to make along the way, the things that I believe would move me towards that or move me away from that, because it then just simplifies my ability to make decisions. And then I stack the small wins. So if something is a big goal and a lot has to happen in order to make that a reality, it can be overwhelming. And I go, wow, it's like 5 years down the track. And then I go, what do I do? So I go bring my line of sight down to right in front of my toes instead of the horizon. And most people say, look up and dream big. And yeah, of course, but you got to get it down to the first point where you can make that decision or take that first step that will move you towards where you need to go. And then you continue following that, because then you come back to, is this going towards my goal? What's the next step? And I just believe in my ability to solve problems or find people who can help me solve those problems. It doesn't mean that I don't have doubt and question every single day.
Yeah.
It's constantly doing that, but I also have an ability to just, once I've made the decision, let's roll with that decision, and I'll get the feedback. And once I have the feedback, then I can decide what to do next. It's not really dwelling on the past or focusing too much on the future. And I wouldn't say I'm super present either, which is weird, because you're not doing either of those. Most people probably say you're present, but I think I'm just looking sort of one step ahead and one step behind, not my whole life and all the things that have gone well or gone wrong, and not too far into the future. It's just sort of like, what's the next 12 weeks look like to then, who do I need to be today and what has to happen today?
Yeah. I feel like there's a misconceived idea or perception about people that work in this space, in like the coaching space as well, that they've got everything figured out. They don't have bad days. They don't have fear of failure. They don't have fear of success. They're always on. There's no self-doubt. Like, as you said, there's no like issues with confidence. I'm like, we're still human. And it's just having the tools and resources to know, okay, what's in my control, what's not, what can I focus on next? How can I just take that one step and continuously build that momentum? Because like, and I feel like some people get so caught up in, oh my God, what do I need to do? I need to have everything perfect and everything like that. It's just like, take one step at a time.
I was listening to one of your podcasts. It was actually, sorry for the loss of your father, but is that one. And you were talking about like tomorrow's not guaranteed, which is true. So
I just got goosebumps.
But there's an element where, yes, we should think about where we want to be, but it doesn't have to be vivid.
Yeah.
Like the details around that don't have to be vivid. What needs to be vivid is today.
Yeah.
Like, what am I trying to achieve today? And anyone working, I guess, in self-help or in personal development or professional development of some sort has generally got in there because we've had issues in our own life.
Yeah.
We've found tools and processes and frameworks that have helped us get through that, and we're excited because we see so many other people suffering. So you don't have to live like that.
Yeah.
The challenge then is because we focus on it so much, and we look at research and we help people transform their lives, that it then becomes our life. What I get worried about for me is that I don't want to just be self-help. Like all of these tools that I have is to make sure that I also live a great life as well. So I don't want to get so focused on helping everyone else that I look back and go, dude, you haven't done all of the things that were available to you in terms of, you wanted adventure, you wanted a loving marriage, you wanted to see what you were capable of. Because that to me is the results for people who are watching myself, or whether it's yourself. They don't care about the frameworks that I've got, all the tools. They just go, oh, Lachie's doing this, this, and this. I think I want that. How did you get there? Teach me, but I want actually the outcome. Yeah. And I don't know whether you struggle with that or find yourself balancing with that, but I definitely, one of my mates actually called me out on it. Maybe 6 weeks ago, he blocked me on all socials. He's one of my closest mates. I don't really care, and he's a very direct bloke, and it was good to hear. But he's just like, I hate your social media. And I was like, fair play, why? And he's just like, it's always coaching and it's always this. And I was like, fair, it's not for you. It's a business profile, not this is my life. And he's like, and I also just want to know, I don't want to get on the phone with you and know what you've been doing because you post a lot. And I was like, fair enough, that's fine. And so he blocked me. But I walked away from that, and I thought it was interesting because I wanted to inspire him to live a better life, and not just him, but people in general. But my content even, and all that I focus about is always the teaching. It's not the doing. Yeah. And I think that's quite often the disconnect, and people may find themselves in, see people in events. They're just always at the events and nothing in their life's changing. Yeah. They're event junkies. Or like framework junkies or personal development junkies, but the gap between, it's this identity dissonance between like the reality and where they want to be, who I am right now versus who I believe I could be.
Yeah.
They don't ever walk the path. And that's I guess the advice that I'm giving to myself now is I'm living the life that I once wanted, but I'm also not progressing because I'm so caught up in the business component of it.
Yeah. It's such an interesting one. And I am very good at me. And I'm very good at me.
I'm the best me.
I'm the best me. No, meaning that, and I've had people say this to me as well, like, how did you do that? I'm like, I don't know. It's just, there's so many things that I do unconsciously that, so if like solo travel, I've done since I've been like 20, 21. So if someone said, hey, I want to go on this holiday or something like that and I don't have anyone to go, I'm like, what do you mean just go? And they're like, what do you mean? Like there's all these fears attached, and like, that's the adventure. And I do things now that have been so ingrained in me from such a young age that it's now about extracting that to then show. So like even when I went on my last trip to Bali, I didn't know anyone. I mean, I went there solo. I ran into so many people I knew. It's about putting yourself out there. But I think what you're trying to say is like, how do you then relay that on the social media that people go, oh my God, I want that lifestyle, to be able to just hop on a plane and hope for the best.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And it's I don't know, once you figure it out, tell me.
It's that compartmentalization of things that most people are just on autopilot through life, and we don't ever really stop and think about what put us in this position until it's like a rock bottom moment or someone passes away or some big event happen, like COVID happens, and people then are forced to look at things, or your life
perspective change.
and you're like, I'm not happy.
Yeah.
And my life doesn't suck either, but I'm not happy. And we start thinking about what would I do differently. And to your point, I think if we can give the processes of what it takes to get there, because for you, it's not hard to just get up and get on a plane and go. Like you do it without thinking about it. The thing that stops everyone else is they have to think about all the things that have to happen, and it's overwhelming. But if we could once again go back to that, just what's the next step?
Yeah.
Get a travel agent or speak to someone who's done it before, then build your to-do list, which is like book your flights, find your accommodation, how you're going to travel between places, like packing, like you can then make it happen. And the only way we get comfortable doing it or are able to do it without thinking about it is
repetition.
Yeah.
How did you become on this path? So you mentioned like a lot of people that are in this space, they go through challenges or they, have a significant moment in life. What was that moment for you?
When I moved back from France, so I was playing rugby overseas, and that had been not necessarily playing overseas was my dream, but my dream was to play professionally. And when I moved back, I was over there, and just all the insecurities, all the jealousy, I was, had FOMO of what my friends were doing because I wasn't around them. And I realized that football wasn't actually the thing.
Yep.
Like I thought it was. And this is where people who think what they're trying to work towards is the goal quite often are mistaken. And so if we can find ways to get micro wins or micro tastes of what we think we want, we'll get more direct feedback. And I realized that I hated who I was. I would lie, cheat, and manipulate because I guess I didn't know who I was, and I just wanted to be valued and heard, like seen, valued, and heard. And the way growing up I got that was through sport or through being like the guy who got all the girls. And I never really thought about that until you're coming back to Australia. My mates are finishing their trades or they're finishing and graduating from universities, doctors, lawyers, accountants, all of those sorts of things. And now I'm starting to feel like I'm behind everyone again. And I didn't have the tools. I didn't have the people around me to, I guess, help me through that. And the best way to get away from a life you don't want to live is drink. And so I did that for a good 9 months and kept finding myself getting into trouble. And there was a lot of moments that I should have probably been like, Lachie, you're not okay. But then you just go through the motion again, and it comes to sort of Wednesday and you're like, oh, let's have another beer and let's do whatever comes next. And you get validated on the weekend for your behavior, and then you wake up Sunday going, what have I actually done? And I lived that way for a long time. And a guy that I was playing rugby with back in Toowoomba, he was about 10 years older than me, but he could see that I wasn't well, and he invited me to a personal development event. I didn't know what these were back in the day, but he just said, I think you should come to this event with me. It'll be really good for you. And I looked up to this guy, like he was sort of like the old dad in the team, and it was a really good rugby player. So I was like, if he's telling me to go, then maybe I should go. And I battled with this. The weekend that it was on was like our major semi-final, and I'm like, if I don't play that, I'm not going to get picked in the grand final team if we make it. But then my gut was telling me, going back to what you said our gut, my gut was like, you got to do this because you hate your life. Like, you don't really care whether you wake up or not. So I went to this event, and I walked in, and for anyone who's been to like a Tony Robbins style event, like there's people jumping on chairs, hugging, high-fiving, and I'm coming through as a 23-year-old who'd not been seen anything like this in my life. And I was like, don't touch me. If you anyone touches me, you're going to hear about it. I walked through, sat down with my mum on one side, and thankfully mum came, and Tom on the other side. And I just remember watching people on stage talking about the challenges they'd overcome, adversity, and who they were now and what they were excited about. And this feeling inside just lit me up. There was one guy who was a bricklayer, was, at a point where he wanted to take his life. And I was really resonating with that because my dad was a chippy, and I had started doing my building apprenticeship at this point. And all of the things he was saying was like, I feel like I was here for more. I didn't like living for the weekend and all of those sorts of things. And I was just sitting there, and I turned to the right to my mum, and I just said, I want to be like that. Like, I want to do what he's doing, how he's making me feeling. I want to do that for other people, even though I didn't know what that would look like or how I would feel walking out of it. But I literally walked away from that and just became addicted to reading. And this is from a guy who never read, wasn't very good at school, and had only known sport his whole life. But I was just like, I've got issues. I'm going to read books that teach me how I can think about them differently, and I'm going to do something. And I became very good at doing things. So I started running events and using social media as a way to share and I guess air my dirty laundry, because I had a lot of guilt and shame around things. And through that process, I was just talking about it, and it was so tough to like accept parts of myself that I've been trying to hide for so long that I wasn't proud of. But in doing that, what I noticed was other people were coming out of the social media or out of all of these places, and they're like, I resonate with that. Like, I've gone through that. Have you thought about it this way? Or how did you have the courage to do that? And it started giving me validation that I wasn't alone. And that was one of the most powerful things as a young bloke. I thought every challenge I was experiencing was, oh, I'm the only one who's ever been through this. And I realized there was a gap, as I'd only been around athletes like at a high level. I hadn't been around anyone else in different areas at a high level. So I knew there was a lot of things missing. And I wanted to get access to men from all walks of life who would talk about the sacrifices, the regrets that had made them successful in where they were. And that's when I created men's groups. And this was back in 2017, before it was like more of a thing. I got obviously picked on for that. In a weird way, but all of that leading up to that point was just from my own pain and lack of, and literally having a friend reach out, and the feeling that I felt when that guy was talking on stage transformed something inside of me. And I think because, and this is without even thinking about it, like for me to play footy or to do sport well, I can just do that. Do that. I didn't necessarily have to think about every single action, but when I'm looking at everything else that came, I just broke it down. I was just like, okay, this guy's here. He obviously speaks really well. I spoke poorly. He can be honest. I lied. And so I started looking at all of these things, and I was like, I need to read a book on that, or podcasts were just starting. I was like, I'll go listen to someone's story on that, or go see a psychologist. And I started just working on all of these small things that over the last sort of decade have completely transformed who I am as a person.
Yeah. Do you feel like that it's changed? Like you mentioned about men's group, like you started way back when. Do you feel like there has been a massive shift in men and them no longer building connection through drinking or alcohol
Yep.
and partying, and that they're more inclined to go to the events, go to men's groups and open up that way as well?
I think for men, we just want to do something while we're catching up with mates. Like, I've read a few studies on this just recently as well, but women can generally go to the coffee shop and sit opposite their friend and just talk about anything.
Yeah.
And it's awesome. Men really struggle with that. It's like, to sit opposite, you'll never really see men sitting opposite. They'll sit side by side, or more frequently they'll be like, how about we go for a game of golf or do whatever. Previously, a lot of the things that we did were revolved around drinking. Like, even if you play footy together, you get that, but then it's like straight after the game, you go to the pub. Or if you're going to watch the footy with your mates, you'll go to the pub. So there was always linked to alcohol, which is why you hear stories of men that, they'll open up after they've had a couple of beers, and then the next day they won't talk about it again. And they'll continue suffering in silence. And I've had it happen to me, and I've also been that person where the next day the follow-up questions didn't come. I just, geez, I was wasted last night. So I think there is a big shift, because I know a lot of men now, we all crave connection.
Yeah.
Like, there's not a single person on this planet who doesn't crave connection. We've started realizing that the way that we've been trying to get it isn't working for us, because suicide numbers are through the roof. Many men are just literally walking through life wanting to feel valued, seen and heard, and they don't feel like they can be who they're meant to be. And because of that, we're turning or looking for information or play. And now with podcasts and social media, like, we're getting access to that these things actually exist. Like, I didn't even know personal development events existed until a decade ago, and someone invited me to one. But for example, Tony Robbins has been around for like 40 years, or Jim Rohn before that. It's there. And so we're now getting introduced to new tools, and more men are coming together with the intention of, I just want to build a relationship, understand what you're dealing with, so maybe I don't feel alone. And when I don't feel alone, then I can start talking, and then I start feeling valued and seen. I walk away feeling light, and what a time to be alive. So I think now more men, especially, everyone has role models, right? Like, for me, I grew up believing that the best blokes on the planet was like Darren Lockyer and all these tough footy players. And now you're even seeing them on podcasts talking about what they struggle with. And I'm like, well, if it's good enough for them, I'm going to go do something like that.
Yeah. And I think that's the beauty of sharing your story, because that's, people resonate. And as you said, like, there's other people out there as well that are going through the same things. One of the reasons I created this podcast is because, people use their story to create change in the world as well, and inspire others as well, because, so often we feel like we have to go it alone, and it's about opening up and saying, first acknowledging it, but then also secondly saying, hey, this is what's going on for me and I need help or support.
Yeah. Without it, like, storytelling's been the driver for all cultures, and like, everyone talks in stories. Some are really good at it, some aren't. And the more, it's like going back to, if you understand what's made you be comfortable getting on planes, like, I'm sure there's a million different stories where you've had things go wrong. That's now like a little story lesson that could inspire someone. And it's just going back through and thinking about, oh, that's when that clicked for me. What's the actual story? What was I thinking? What was I feeling? What was going on around me that made that happen? And that's how we can inspire change. It's how, I believe, why podcasts are growing so quickly. I love listening to people's stories. And I think now, and you might find this as well, like, time's limited. We're all doing different things, but I listen to podcasts to solve problems in my life. So if I know something that's really bugging me or it's causing a problem in my life, I'll just jump on Google or ChatGPT and like find a podcast episode where someone is talking about that. Right. And then I get the answers, but I also get the perspective, because if we look at frameworks logically make sense. It's like, if I do this, then I should get this outcome. Yet if everyone could do that, everyone would be healthy, wealthy, and happy. Data says otherwise. So I look at that and go, okay, well, why is that not the case? And it's because what's going on between our ears, right? And that's the stories, the perspectives, and the insights where we don't feel alone. So if I know that someone that I really, really respect has gone through similar stuff, I'm like, oh, maybe he's felt other things that I'm currently feeling. Maybe I can open up. And just sometimes just verbalizing things when you say it out loud, or if you write it, like, writing is just your thoughts slowed down. So if you can write that out, you make sense of it while you're doing it. And quite often you don't even need to talk to someone. And that, I think that's where people's vulnerability is really genuinely changing people's lives. And it's a interesting thing is, once again, especially for men aren't as vulnerable as women. There's a lot we can learn, but there's also like a time and a place for vulnerability versus like actually just rolling up your sleeves and getting some shit done.
So you're the founder of the Man That Can project. Has that idea stemmed from your journey as well? And what's your mission for that?
Yeah, so it stemmed off the back of that. And so 2017, I created a men's group because I wanted to be able to learn. And I also realized that I wasn't the only one asking these questions. And I thought, if I can get a couple of blokes in a room who sit in a circle, and we would talk about the challenges and give, I guess, feedback or different perspectives on things, that would be awesome. And if I could get men from doctors, lawyers, all this, I would learn so much. And I still remember the first one I ran. I did a video when I was in Austria because I'd got a question from someone. I was like, when I'm back in Brisbane, we're doing a men's group, and I found a little venue and 8 people rocked up. And I remember rolling in there. I had like 6 pages of like an intro around how this is going to work. And as soon as I walked in the door, I was like, I don't need this paper, like get rid of that. We had a couple of blokes there, 8, and it was just insane. Like watching these men, like not everyone spoke, and that was fine, but everyone messaged me after saying like that was just incredible. And it continued to grow until we had 30 men every month.
Wow.
Talking. We had, like, not even kidding, like doctors, professional athletes, guys who just finished university who didn't know anything, and they, all the status, all the titles, all the goals had just been left at the door, and everyone was connecting. Like it was one of the coolest things to witness. And where things sort of started to get me bogged down was every month the same guys were starting to come back, and they were coming back with the same challenges. So while they were walking out lighter, they weren't actually then making any change in their life. So they were carrying the same stuff. And to me, it's like, if you keep doing the same thing, it's a definition of insanity. And it was bogging me down because I got inspired firstly by the men talking about things that I was learning, but then I was getting frustrated because they weren't fucking doing anything.
Yeah.
So I started then looking around like, how could I help these guys more? Like, how can we help them make some changes in their life? Because I'd been starting to make changes in my life. And that's when I did like some coaching certifications. And I thought, for me, the things that have got me talking is exercising. Like if I'm, on the training pitch with a mate, like we've just shared suffering. So now it's like there's a unique bond there. And for men, I believe that like if we go to a coffee shop or sit across from a psychologist, it's a little bit more challenging for us to open up because we don't have that rapport. Like you can say some words, but if I've suffered with you and know your character, more likely that we're going to open up. So I started running events. We started doing like 2-3 day events that still had a very big fitness component. So the first day you're sort of bringing touch football in and some various other things, hot cold therapy, and it would bring down the walls. Then by day 3, these guys are going home, and we had like bushies, like athletes, like people from all over who'd never been to this, didn't really know what they were getting into, and they'd walk out having brand new best mates. So like I've told these guys stuff that I didn't even know about myself, but my mates at home I'd never have the space to do that. And it was just watching them do that. I was like, wow, fantastic. But then I noticed another problem is that immersion or immersive experiences are incredible because you block out the outside world. But what happens when you go back to your current environment? Generally, if you don't make changes, you'll start going back to who you were, which was for most people who they're trying to, evolve from. So then I saw another gap where I was like, okay, perfect. What if we made like an online component where people can check in and continue setting goals and connecting with like-minded blokes? And we built the Strong Men of Value Academy, which I actually only just recently shut down. But we had guys from all around the world, America, Ireland, UK, New Zealand, Australia, and it was awesome. And that, and obviously started around COVID, but it's always been the same thing, like transformation. And what I believe I'm good at doing is helping men become the better version of themselves, and that's strong in body, calm in mind, clear in purpose, confident in life. And if we can help men do that, I believe suicide rates will go down, we'll be better in our communities, we'll be better in all the roles that we're playing.
Is that your long-term vision and mission and legacy that you want to create in the world and through the Man That Can project?
Yes. Yeah. I to me, I've lost 7 mates to suicide, and I lost my first mate when I was 15. We didn't speak about it back then, and I didn't understand it. But I just remember thinking, like, this guy was signed with the Gold Coast Titans, had just won the Australian 100 and 200 meter sprinting titles. And I'm like, for me as an athlete, I was like, he's got it all.
Yeah.
And so to take his life, I just know the ripple effect that has on people as well, that people don't even often get to see. So I then think, okay, well, what leads you to a point? I always just like work back, like what would lead me to the point where I felt like that? And I've spoken about that earlier, but not having purpose, not feeling valued, not having more to give. So how can I help people do that? And whether that's in their marriage or just having direction for their life, you've got to give them some metrics to track on. And that's where, like, a method that I built my life off is the Become method. Like, who are you becoming? Because you got to audit your reality. Yeah. Like, be honest with yourself. And that's hard. Like, really, 12 years ago, that was the hardest thing I ever did. And I didn't do it all at once because, shit, I had a lot of stuff to air out there. But when I was able to accept this is, I am a liar, cheater, manipulator at this point. I have done these bad things. I'm not as financially as good with money as I thought. I am emotionally, I'm just an angry dude. Like, as soon as I was able to admit that, I could then create the gap, which is like where I am versus who I think I could be, and then find the tools, resources, and roadmaps to help me get there. And then obviously the accountability in order to become that person.
Do you think I don't know, there's something about men doing this work and creating spaces for other men that just hits on a totally different level with me. And I don't know why. And I think it's because I'm always surrounded by women doing it and creating change. When I see the men do it, it just, I don't know, it hits something different. And I think because I know men that need this type of work at the same time. So having spaces that it's available, it's really heartwarming. Where was I going to go with that? You mentioned around sport as well. Like, I know that you're big into fitness as well, and you kind of challenge yourself.
I don't mind a challenge.
Do those challenges stem from that as well? Like, is that the why behind your fitness challenges? And maybe we can go into that in a moment as well.
Yeah. So originally it started to bring communities together because I knew, once again, there's a lot of, and I was this guy, like, I didn't know there was, I guess, solutions for problems. Now that people are aware, there's life coaches on every corner and everything like that, there's still a lot of resistance to it. Yet these people, I'll just keep saying men because that's who I work with, but are silently suffering and struggling. So for me, same thing. It's like, how do I break down the barriers to give them what they need, what they want, which is like community and mates and high-fiving and, butt taps and all of that, but then also provide them what they actually need. Yep. And fitness for me has always been that, because when you're in the locker room, it's like some of the best moments of your life. But if I could go back to when I was 15 and have all of those experiences again, but then also have some really strong role models who said, Lachie, don't behave like that outside of the club, would have completely transformed my life. And that's what I like to create, because I still obsess about sport. Like, I read about it all the time, the business of sport and what players are doing and the psychology behind it. I love it. And then I understand how it moves a lot of men. And once again, not every bloke, but the people that I generally work with, I have this unwritten law. It's like, if I'd have a beer with you, that's the kind of person that I'd work with. So I'm not everyone's cup of tea, and I'm not pretending to be. But then I started seeing that, right? We had one guy that always will stand out to me. Every year, our challenges were about bringing the community together and raising funds for mental health and having conversations. Every year, the funds got bigger and the challenges got a little bit more extreme. And that's why it's I've gone out on my own with the challenges now. But in 2022, I rode 30 marathons in 30 days. And there was one guy he would have been 49 at the time, and wasn't built like a rower, but he just showed up every day. He wasn't even telling me he just pulled up a rower near me and started with 5K a day. And by the end of it, the last 3 days, he rode 2 half marathons and a full marathon. This guy's 49. Yeah, wow. Like, has a full-time job, has so much going on in his life. And he inspired the crap out of me, because as I'm speaking to him, I'm like, why are you doing it? He's like, I just want to challenge myself. Like, I'm in a rut in my life. I'm obviously a little bit out of nick, and I just want to prove to myself that I'm capable of more. And because of the row, we got to build this relationship. And he's now since gone on to starting his own surveying company and killing it because he had the confidence to back himself. And so for me, fitness opens the door for a lot of men who want change but don't know they really need it, to then continue growing. And I also believe I have the gift of suffering, and I do it publicly so that others who are suffering in silence can maybe learn of what I'm going through in those moments, and tools that I use or people that I confide in to help me with that.
You did 58 marathons in 58 days.
Yep.
Where did that idea stem from, and how did you mentally prepare to go into something along those lines?
Yep. It came up, we were living in Nashville, Tennessee at the time, and I wasn't on a working visa, so I was flying back to Australia to run workshops, and I was back and I had a lot of time on my hand. And I'm thinking, like, I just can't sit on my ass here the whole time. I need to do something, but I also need to do something that's not going to get me kicked out of the country from a visa standpoint. And I knew, like, fitness challenges was things that I loved, and I still had that itch, because when I finished the 30 rowing marathons, everyone's like, you're insane, like, didn't think you could do that. And I was sitting there having just completed it thinking, well, like, I'm unfinished, like, I didn't break down, so what am I actually capable of? And I had literally had the Iron Cowboy on my podcast while I was there, and he inspired the 50 States Marathon Challenge. But the way he was talking about it was like, it's this grand adventure, and athletes train their whole life to achieve this. Only 1,000 people have done the 50 states in their entire career. And so I got off that call and I was like, 50 states, hey? Maybe that could be my next thing. And keep in mind, I've only ever run 4 marathons in my life up until this point. So I started doing research, and then I noticed one person in history's done it in 50 consecutive days. So I'm like, that could be cool. Maybe I could spend my time doing that while I'm over here and I get to see the country. And it would also move me towards where I'm going anyway, because all of the things, and this is just a quick side note, all of the things that I do lead me to the next point in what I'm trying to create in my life. And I knew that if I did this, and this is to be, I guess, transparent with people as well, but I believe that from this, if I were to do this next big thing, where I fell short in the 30 rowing marathons was I didn't document it well. Like, we had media and a few things, but I didn't document daily to show everything that could have inspired more transformation and whatnot. But I was looking at it, I'm like, okay, this could really help my career in the US, so that when I go back to Australia, I've got a bigger platform and I've inspired and reached more men who maybe love the idea of pushing yourself that way. And then I went a little bit further. I'm like, no one's done it in winter. And I later found out why, because it's ridiculously cold. But I kept looking at it and I was like, I don't just want to do what someone else has done. I want to do something a bit bigger, and I'd love to finish in Australia because all my friends and family are in Brisbane, and how cool to finish something in Australia. Plus, I knew the charity that I wanted to raise funds for, they were in Brisbane, which is the Mental Awareness Foundation. So I initially went to my wife and I was like, I've got my next thing. And she's just given me this look like, no, like straight away, no. And I thought about it and I was like, she's probably right. Like, it is a bit insane. Like, at this point, I didn't think I could do it. Like, it was just so far away, but I was still so excited by it. So I kept looking into it and working out, like, what would it cost? What would we do if we got stuck in a blizzard, or if I missed a flight? Could I actually run 58 marathons? How much food would I need to eat? And the more I went digging and building a bit of a plan, the more I just was like, I have to do this. Like, it's happening. So I built a bit of a plan, a bit of a pitch, and I went back to Amy and I said, like, I have to do this. And she's just like, I know you drive me fucking insane, like pacing around the house and being weird. But she also said one thing which changed everything for me, where she said, it would be hypocritical of me to not support you in your dreams when you've moved halfway around the world to support me with mine. And in that moment, not only did I have her permission, because I would never have done it if I didn't have my wife's permission, and it's not because I'm under the thumb or anything, but for me, it's like my marriage is my most important thing. And we're building a life together, so I don't need to put splinters in that. But when I had that, she also gave me her belief, because she was like, if anyone's capable of pulling this off, it's you.
Yeah.
And I was just like, fuck, here we go. Like, game on, and instantly called my brother-in-law because I was thinking about the team that I was going to build. And one of my good mates, Maddie, and he's like, I'll sponsor you. And as soon as someone said, I'm going to sponsor you, it's like, it's gone from this dream to like, crap.
Yeah, I have to do it.
Yeah, now I have to do it. And then all the normal stuff comes in. You're like, the doubt, the fear, how am I going to pull this off? What if no one else wants to sponsor me? Or what if I get injured? And yeah, all the doubt that generally holds us back was with me the whole time. But I knew that, I just had my wife's support, and I'd said I'm going to do this, and now I'm just going to break it down to the smallest possible step. What do I do next? And I just did that for 14 months to get to the start line.
Yeah, wow. So it was preparation for 14 months. How did you stay on track for 14 months? Like, because that's a pretty...
No one's ever actually asked me that. I think how I stayed on track was I knew the deadline was, but we look at things, if you're going to do something so outrageous, and what that can be anyone. So anyone who's listening to the stuff that we say over the next little bit, picture what your 58 is. Maybe the thing that you believe would be pivotal in your life, and it's something that you're excited by and you just obsess over. And maybe these will make a bit more sense. But for me, I knew that in order to get to the start line, there's already going to be 99.9% of people who don't think it's possible, and they're going to let you know. And there's also that much of me that doesn't think it's possible. So I had to build evidence to believe that it was possible, because I knew, like, rule number one, and parts of the book is like, for me, the first part is states of conviction, and it's believe or leave. So if there's people who don't believe, they're not in my sight. And if I didn't believe that it were possible to find the evidence, I wouldn't do it. Yeah. But because I'd built that roadmap, I put 58 marathons, 58 states, 58 days on butcher's paper. I then wrote all the things that I thought had to happen, from training, recovery, nutrition, sponsors, what would the documentary be, who would my crew be, the stories that we would tell for the charity, and the logistics. Yep. I then just went, okay, these are all the things that have to happen. And maybe you can separate these into domains of life as well for people as well. But I thought, okay, I can do my own programming, but I could also get someone to do that, because there's things that only I can do, like pitch to sponsors or work out the logistics. So I got a coach, and one of the rules with the coach was I have to do a back-to-back run in this training block to prove to or put my mind at ease that I can back up and I know what it feels like. And he's like, nah. I was like, well, do you want the job or not? Yeah. And I don't say that. He would have kicked my ass. But it was just to prove to myself, because I had to have this in place. And so as I started looking at all of these things, I knew that our D-Day was 22nd of January, 2025. Ideally, I had to have sponsors locked in by October, because we needed to book the van, the flights, all of the things. And I knew that all these parts needed to be integrated, not isolated. So I could not have completed it without a team. Yeah. I could not have completed it if I just focused on training, because how do you learn to eat? So I had to go from eating 2,000 calories a day to 6,500 calories a day. So you don't just do that. Yeah. So I realized I need to get a food coach. So I had a 16-week training block to do that, because I knew if I could get all of these things done by the time we got to the start line, I knew that I had prepared myself without a doubt to do everything that needed to happen. Now, there's a lot of stuff happening. So then, to your point on how did I stay on track, I broke down the goals, like what are the most important things to have happen first? Firstly, it was sponsors or coach, but follow the training plan to a T. I did not skip a single training session. And we were traveling all around the US. There's like a story. We flew from Nashville to LA, and we had a 6-hour layover. I literally left the airport, went and did a 23-kilometer run, came back into the airport, flew back to Australia. And so what I didn't realize at the time was I was just focused on getting my session done. But what it was actually conditioning me to do was exactly what the run was going to be, where I'm jumping on flights and going straight to the next state, and I'm running in between. And so I was conditioning myself for that. So all of these things on a daily basis was like, I wake up, tick, 1, fitness stuff, make sure I recover, 2, have I eaten, 3. And so I'm slowly building these things, and it's literally all I've thought about. And a big lesson on this was the focus that I had. Because I had my wife's support, she knew there was going to be sacrifices. She knew I was going to be run down, snappy and tired, and I probably wasn't I didn't drink for 14 months. So a lot of the social things we had were kind of on the back burner. A lot of the things that we loved to do together, I was always like lethargic and tired, but she she made that sacrifice for me to do this. And obviously we had conversations, but my whole life revolved around this run. Even my business, like I got rid of clients, I slowed down things, and I just had one day a week where I was actually working, and I was fortunate to be in that position. But, and when I say working, like online, not going back to Australia all the time, but then I was just living and breathing. It's like I knew how much I had to get from sponsors. I knew I had stories to tell and I had to document to get people invested in the journey. We then were making hats, like we were getting the logistics done, then we were booking flights. So the goal was just having small milestones to get those wins, to stay invested, but then also the pressure of like, I've told people, I put myself in a position where you can't pull out now. So if I falter, it's,
I'm going to use this time frame I'm going to take the training into it as well, right? So essentially it's like nearly 18 months, like from the idea, the training prep into the runs. Was there any particular day that you were like, do you know what? I can't do this. Like, and mentally you were just like this, why did I have this idea? Did you have self-doubt, whether it was physically, emotionally, mentally, that you're like, this is the hardest thing in life right now?
Yeah. I would say yes. There would have been days where I was on a long run. Like there was a long run in Nashville, so 33 kilometers, and I nearly passed out because it was so hot. Like I just chose the wrong time, and I had to call the girls to come pick me up. I was like, I'm cooked here. And I was just thinking, like, what if moments like that happen? Because we didn't always get to choose. Like I knew we weren't going to get to choose the time that I ran based on like logistics of traveling and stuff. I just have to do it regardless of what came up. So like that was definitely a moment where I was like, this is like going to bury me. And then when I did the back-to-back marathons, how I woke up the next morning was horrible. But I learned a lot. Like I watched the video back the other day when I did that because I documented that, and I didn't eat during the marathon. And this is where a coach came in handy because he's like, mate, you need to be eating. I was like, yeah, but I can eat after. He's like, no. When you're running, you're eating for tomorrow's marathon so you don't go into depletion. And I was like, fair play. So there were moments like that. But if I go back to the 10 or the 8 years from that before, where I'd done the rowing marathons, I'd done 12-hour challenges, I'd done 24-hour challenges, I'd done all of these, even rugby, I'd put myself in a position where I believed I was capable of doing whatever I needed to do in that moment of doubt to get myself through it. And I'm someone who's comfortable putting my hand up saying I need help. I'm someone who I'll pester people even if they don't know me, but I know that they know the answers that I need. I'll pick up the phone and call just to get a meeting with them to learn. And I've done that. And like, that's how I met the Iron Cowboy. He did 50 Ironman, 50 states in 50 days. Perfect guy to learn from. So I did that until we became mates. And that's where, for me, it's going, there's going to be things that are in my sphere that I can control. And there's definitely going to be days where I'm like, fuck, am I actually capable? But I have to know that I believe that if I did everything that was on my list, from trusting my coach and doing whatever he said without fault, to then the fueling, the recovery, I've put myself in the best position to do that. So even, those days where things didn't go to plan, I just knew that there was a learning that I had to take from that would set me up for the day. So there was definitely, I guess to answer your question, there was definitely days, but I was brainwashing myself to believe that it was possible. And I guess to add to that, when I started the marathons, we were at a wedding in Mexico the week before, and everyone still didn't believe it was going to be possible. I had people making bets, and I was just like, well, I don't even need to try and convince you because I don't really care. But in my head, it's done. Like, I'm doing this regardless. And looking back on that, it is so fucking crazy that I had brainwashed myself to think that was my reality. Whereas 14 months earlier, there was so many unknowns and so much doubt. But the thing that changed my perspective and conditioned myself was every day I got up and stacked small wins that were going to not only just focus on the running, but all the things around it, even from having the tough conversations with my wife, seeing the sacrifices that she'd made. I was like, there's no way I'm not doing this because she's given up so much. And then we were going through like an IVF journey, and I'd had, the goal for $100,000, I'd had all this sponsors money. It's like, there's no way I'm going to let anyone down. And so you just condition yourself to be like, back to the point of state of conviction. If anyone didn't believe me, you're out of my sphere, because I'm already doubting myself. Yeah. But if I can control the environment and the energy around me, like, I would push through it.
I have so many questions, even just from like that last statement at the same time. And I love that you've just said your state of conviction and that it's already done. It's like, you've done all the prep work. Of course that was going to happen.
Yeah.
Of course you're going to get there. And you make it sound so easy, like what you just did. And I'm not taking that away, because it sounds like it was extremely challenging. But the fact that you put in all the reps, put in all the work, that was the outcome. Of course, like, what do you mean? Like, I'm not going to achieve this. Of course I'm going to do it, because I've done everything else to get me there. It's not as if I woke up and going, okay, today's day one.
Good luck.
So you did, you did 14 months of prep work to get you there.
Yeah. And like, the biggest thing that stands out when I talk about is the eating, right? I'd never considered eating. I'd never eaten in marathons previously. And when my coach said that to me, I was like, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I knew there was going to be a big caloric difference in eating, and I don't eat a lot of food anyway. But I knew that I'm not just going to get on this trip and start eating 6,500 calories, regardless of how hungry I am. Like, you have to train that. And also, if I did just miraculously be able to do that, I'm probably going to have an upset tummy. And so, because I had the foresight to like project, like look at the things that had to happen, you can then plan accordingly, do the research, and find the right people to help coach you to do those, so that when you're on day one, it's like you're ready to get ready. It's like, what has to happen for this next outcome?
Yeah.
And every outcome's earned by the decisions that you do prior.
What was the biggest lesson you learned about yourself through that whole process?
We're capable of so much more.
Yeah.
Like, I still don't know what I'm capable of. And that's what's worrying my wife, because whatever's next is like, and whatever's next is going to be bigger, obviously, because that is now my new reality. Like, it sounds so weird saying this like nonchalant, but like, for me, a marathon, like, I could run marathons without, like, I wouldn't stress about them. I probably wouldn't need to train as much for them, because mentally it's just like, I have run so many and I've broken them down so much in my mind. I know what that feeling feels like. Not saying I would do it without training, but now I'm looking at like, what's the next thing that, because I just want to see what I'm capable of.
Yeah.
That's all, because every time you get to like that threshold, and it does not matter what it is, what context in life it comes, when you get to the breaking point where you question what you're capable of, or maybe the tools or the beliefs that you have are no longer serving you, you have to find another gear.
Yeah.
And that's what excites me, because I've achieved so much in my life and I'm proud of the man that I am, and I still haven't found that. So imagine how much more I could give to the world, or how much more of a better husband I could be if I keep exploring that.
So what does that feeling feel like? Like, when will you know that you've reached?
Well, I don't think there's an end goal. It's interesting to think about, but it's not about the goal. It's never like the 58 marathons does not define me.
Yeah.
Well, as soon as I finished, everyone's like, oh, ready for the dip? I'm like, there's no dip.
Yeah.
Because this is not my full stop.
Yeah.
I learned that from rugby. Like, when rugby was over, that was my definition. Right. And so then life after rugby was like, I've got nothing.
Yeah.
I said a couple of minutes ago, like, everything that I do now is leading towards something bigger.
Yeah.
And so an example of that, like, my wife and I are very clear on what we're trying to create. And we have like vivid details around certain things. But if we look like long term, there's a couple of things that I want in my life. It's connection. And so connection for me is people who challenge me, uplift me, bring the best out of me. And sometimes that's specific people, or sometimes we evolve and we grow apart. Then it's health. Like, health is paramount for me. So all of the things is like, is this moving me towards or away from that? Then I've got freedom. Freedom to me is having the financial means to do the things that my wife and I want to do, but also time. It's why I'm not, it's the reason why I've set my life up the way that I've set it up. And then adventure.
Yeah.
Adventure to me is creating the stories that if I were to read my book when I'm 90, there's not a chapter that I want to skip over, because it's so easy to just fall into it. And like, my wife and I are having a kid in February, and we're speaking about this a lot. It's like, how do we keep doing the things that we do. We travel a lot. We're ambitious. We have a lot of fun. We get so many experiences. How do we do that with a kid rather than being like, oh, nah, the kid's sort of putting a pause on that.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's going to be challenging, and we don't know what we don't know, of course, but we're keen to find that out because we don't want this to be a chapter where we're like, we put our life on hold. Not saying a kid would do that, but we still were able to, still able to do things that most people put on hold for that phase of life. So going back to your original question, I don't think it stops because I'm not focused on what is the full stop. I'm focused on how can this be better. And if I look at it in different domains of life, like how do I see what I'm capable of when I've got a kid? That's going to be a very different situation and different priorities, but the goal is still the same. Like how can I be the dad who still leads by example and chases his dreams while being a present dad and while running a business like that? Who fucking knows what that looks like? But that's what I'm excited to see. So it's never about when's enough because for me, if I stop chasing that, I'm going to not feel fulfilled. And if I'm not feeling fulfilled, then I'll probably start going back to being the depressed guy that I was a decade ago.
I love how you have articulated that so much. And it's like the journey. Like there's no ending to anything. It's just the journey of the becoming, like every single day. There's no goal. There's no end goal. It's just preparing you for the next thing. Like it's such a great message that I think you just shared
seasons of life. Every single person is like who we are right now is not going to serve. Like it'll be a stepping stone to who we need to be in that next season. Like if you meet a new life partner or you start a new career or you have a family or there's some illness, like you have to become someone new because you have to deal with a different set of variables. And if you think that you've made it and it's the full stop and it's enough, you're going to find out very quickly that it's not.
Yeah. How are you feeling about going into the next chapter of life and being a parent?
I'm so pumped. Like I can actually start talking about this now because I don't think people who really knew was my close friends and wife. But 12 years ago when I wrote my first vision, I was working with a guy called Emil Steenveld. Do you know Emil? He lives over in Bali, but he was awesome. He really challenged me to think differently. And I was thinking about like, what kind of man do I want to become? It's a hard question to answer when you don't really have an idea or have role models. But I started thinking like, I just want to be the kind of guy that I'd be proud to be fathered by me. And what that meant was like, I'm honest, I'm clear, I have purpose, I'm still strong in body. The 4 things that I mentioned before, and I'm confident in life, like just living. And everything that I've done up until that point, it's always come back to that.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, well, in order for me to be a good dad, my wife has to still love me and we have to have a great relationship. In order for me to be a good dad, I want to be able to provide for my family and do nice things. In order to be a good dad, I want to be emotionally in control and not be a fucking angry dude who just brings stress home to the workplace. So all of these things, and I just want to be lit up by life. And so I believe I'm in that position. Once again, I'm still becoming more, but knowing that like we've got a kid and we don't know whether we're having a boy or a girl, so that's going to be a fun surprise. I'm pumped, but I'm so pumped that, I get to be there and be present. Like, yes, I have to work and travel and whatnot, but for the majority of it, I get to enjoy fucking changing diapers and I don't know, whatever it is to be. Like I'm genuinely excited and I know it's going to teach me things that I didn't ever expect. And I'm just, it's a new season. And my brother-in-law said to me 2 days ago, he's like, you guys have been together for 11 years and this is like your last 11 weeks where it's just you guys, enjoy it. Because I was like, I'm winding up for the year from work at the moment and just going to start hanging out. And when he said that, I was like, far out. Like life is going to change and it's going to be different and priorities, next time we speak, who knows what I'm going to be saying. Yeah. But I'm also aware that I'm not defined by this chapter of my life. I'm going into something new and I'm excited by what it's going to bring.
It will test you what you're capable of as well, right? On a totally different level.
Yep.
Yeah.
But I'm excited for that because I work with men, obviously most of them are fathers and they run businesses or professional athletes. And there are limitations that they tell me. But I always want to challenge and push back, but I've never really been able to because didn't have a kid at that point. So now I'm excited to challenge what people think is possible from that front.
It unlocks a totally different perspective, right? I think when you go through it
Yeah.
yourself, yeah.
So we'll see what happens, but yeah, I'm so pumped. Like I love watching my wife. She's just like they talk about that pregnancy glow. It's like she's so happy all the time because it took us 3 years. So she's just like pumped. Everything's just like about the baby, and people are dropping off gifts, and we're setting up the kids' room, and
Oh, I love that.
it's fun.
Yeah.
It's fun to be a part of. Like as a bloke, because I guess even when we got married, I was like, you do the wedding thing, that's fine. But I remember how happy she was during that period, and she always wanted to sit down at night and tell me all the things she'd done. I was like, look, I don't care, like really.
Yeah.
But one regret I had from our wedding was not being present, because I think it would have just been, even if I didn't care, I could have made her feel better and could have enjoyed it more, just being like, tell me about it. Like, I'm keen to see what excites you, even if it doesn't excite me. And so sort of taking that approach with the kids' room now, like the same thing. I'm not really too fussed on what a kids' room looks like, but she is, so therefore I am.
Yeah. And it's a different connection too, right? Like it'll be different once the baby's here, I think, as well.
To be fair, I am nervous about, like I said this to my wife and I speak to people all the time, like the relationship dynamic's going to change, right? All of a sudden you go from being, it's just you two and I'm the most important person in her life, and all of a sudden it's like, I've got to get used to being second, which I don't know how I'm going to take that. But we'll see, because a lot of men don't really talk about that. But when I chat to my mates, they're like, yeah, it's tough. Yeah. So once again, it's easy for me saying that now when I'm not in that experience. So I'll look forward to seeing how I navigate that.
Yeah. And I feel like you're in that space that you have the skills to be able to communicate that at the same time and navigate, as you said, whatever challenge comes up, you kind of lean into that at the same time and find what works for you.
Definitely.
As well.
Yeah. And sometimes, we all have the tools, and you'll find moments where you just, there's that great quote where when emotions are high, intellect's low. So even though I'm saying the things that I would like to be doing, I would definitely find myself in moments where it's sleep deprived or whatever, and I don't do things the way I should. But that's part of life.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like we've covered off so much on the episode. Is there anything that you were hoping that I was going to ask you today that we didn't get a chance to touch on?
No, you actually asked me a question that I'd never been asked before, which was like, how did I keep it all together? So that was good, because I'd never, to be honest, probably similar to you, traveling, I just had the things that I needed to get done, and I did that. And I just believed if I skipped that, I'd set myself up for failure. So I didn't want to do that. But we've covered a lot. It's been fun.
Yeah, it's been great. I appreciate your time, and I love your energy. I'm like, oh, maybe I can go do a marathon. I'm not going to.
You could. I believe everyone can.
I did 2 half marathons last year.
Oh, you're on. You could do a full for sure.
It's the training, and I wasn't eating right at the same time, and I recognized that after finishing the 2 and my body going into full shock.
Yeah.
And it's because I didn't eat throughout it. And I know you're probably thinking a half marathon, but for someone who isn't a runner to then do that, you realize the importance of food and actually the energy that you need to actually complete that race.
Yep.
So I feel like if I was to do something like that again, it would definitely be having the right people in my corner to actually share that as well, because I recognize that I just didn't do that side of it well at all.
I love that. You should definitely do one. 2 things. First one is you did it anyway, which is awesome. And I think that's the best way to find out what you need to improve on. It's how I did it as well. But the next thing, as my shirt says, do it for tomorrow, is even if you're doing a half, anything for me over an hour, I fuel while I run. Even if it's the smallest, easiest training run, because I'm fueling for tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to be going home stressed or fatigued or be snappy, because I don't want to ruin my marriage. Or the next day's training. I want to be prepared for the next day's training. And that's where it's very easy to skip those things in the moment.
Yeah.
Recovery, sleep, but it'll bite you on the ass at some point. And I would imagine most people who are listening to this are wanting to improve elements or aspects of their life. And it is those 1%ers.
Yeah.
Like, surround yourself with people who are doing the things that you want to do, and quite often you can't even ask them how they do it. Just observe them, because as you said, it's like most of us haven't thought about how we do the things we do. We just do them. And so that's where when you're in their proximity, you just watch them and you go, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I keep doing that. I've never spoken about that before, but what's that all about? And then they'll tell you, like, oh, I didn't even realize I did that, but
yeah,
it's part of my process.
You kind of take it for granted what you know because you just think that everyone knows it.
Yeah.
Where a lot of people don't
No.
know the things that you know. Yeah.
Everyone's an expert in something that we're not.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for your time and your energy. I loved it.
No, thank you so much for having me on. And as I said, I listened to a couple of your episodes, and I'll finish the one that I'm on the drive back. But your vulnerability, like that episode is with about your father, like had me in tears on the way down because I'm like, it was so raw, but it's also one of those moments that's a good reminder for those who are fortunate to still have their parents around. Pick up the phone when they ring. Like, so like that's the benefit of your podcast, and I appreciate your vulnerability on that.